Hi, I'm Mike Brofman, and welcome to Song and Wine, Brooklyn Art Song Society's web series where we discuss our upcoming concerts. I'm joined today with the fantastic soprano Martha Guth, and we are going to discuss Brooklyn Art Song Society's season finale, which is coming up on May 22nd, and it is the world premiere of our co-commission with Casement Fund Song Series and Sparks and Wiry Cries and Brooklyn Art Song Society by the Canadian composer Andrew Staniland, entitled Earthquakes and Islands. But first, we should check out our wine, which was brought to us by Waterfront Wines on 360 Fairman Street. They specialize in organic and all-natural wines, and today's wine is a Bourgogne 2014.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh wow, that's really good.
It's really good.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Andrew Staniland. Andrew Staniland was a composer that I actually heard for the first time through you at a Casement Song concert. What was your experience of Andrew's music?
This is the first time that I've sung any of his music, although I have loved and listened to quite a bit of it. And then we did program that one piece that you heard. It was a cycle as well. And I think what's so wonderful about his music is that it is A, very accessible to listen to, but B, highly dramatic, and also very structured. And so it leads you in a very beautiful way. It rings very true for me.
I think so. I think Andrew, his music can be almost disarmingly simple.
Yeah.
Especially for a living composer writing contemporary and pretty dissonant music. There's something, he's unafraid to have a single note.
Or simple rhythms.
There's no other way to say it than sort of Andrew has it.
You're right.
There's something about his music where it's just sort of like he hits the nail on the head.
Yeah.
Way. And I think he's a good composer of song because of that, because I think song so much hinges often on small details, on like small sort of gestures and simple gestures having extreme importance.
I would say that I would go even further with that. I would say that what I look for one of the things I look for in good songwriting is that you have the small gesture and the overarching one.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And that is there in spades with what he does.
Yeah.
To conjure a color, a feeling. There's almost a sense of nostalgia in the music. It is hauntingly beautiful.
But yeah, there's just a lot of stuff in Andrew's music that's just sort of, I like to call it a straight no chaser.
To me, it reminds me of like slam poetry in a sense, where it's like it is all about the rhythm of the words and the beat and the expression. It is It is pure expression, actually. Yeah.
I think what's great about this project is we're not only creating new music. It's actually very, very new poetry.
Yeah.
It's literally, I think that even as much as there is new art song being written, there's actually there's an even smaller subcategory of new art song, which is a small category of itself. That's new art song set to new poetry.
This is something that I think actually Sparks and Wiry Cries, that's the organization that I run, that's something that we have really wanted to spearhead, and that was part of the thing. One of the things that made this commission is super interesting for us.
This poetry is from Robin Richardson, the poet, and it's from her new book. And she asked me, should I write poetry for songs, and how do I do that? And I said, what you should just do is you should just write poetry, and don't worry about if it's going to work as a song. Give that to Andrew, and let Andrew figure out if it's going to be good for a song. Because it's a weird. I think that part of art song and part of what makes art song so great is the tension of a poem that was written not meant to be set to music, and then the composer having to struggle and figure out how to set it to music. I think that just sets something off creatively.
One of the reasons why poetry itself works so beautifully for music is because the poet almost on every occasion has thought about the sound of each word.
Yeah.
The way that it lifts off the page, the long vowels, the diphthongs, the way each line ends, even if the thought continues to the next line.
Yeah.
You know, there's always that kind of lift there.
Yeah, and there's music in poetry even when there's no music.
Absolutely. I mean, for me, it's about the layering of artistry.
Yeah.
I feel like, you know, there are all poetry is complete in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't need anything else. You know, even if it has been set brilliantly by other composers, it doesn't need it. But the fact that you can start with a completed artwork and then layer a composer's interpretation on top of that, and then after that you then layer the performer's interpretation of the composer's work, of that poetry, and then you then have another layer, of course, of the audience interpreting that for themselves. For me, that is what is so interesting.
Okay.
When you get this kind of active collaboration between a poet who is alive and discussing this stuff, it is full of life at an even greater level.
Yeah. Interesting how many poets aren't aware of art song or not, and how, you know, you'd think that just that field would somehow introduce you, but I think it's like a totally untapped market.
I agree 1,000,000% that I feel like, although I do know that there are some poets who really are not interested in having their poems set, that probably this is a union that needs to be explored very deeply, and that I feel that if more poets and people who are interested in poetry readings and slam knew about song, that they would be knocked off their feet by this, and especially this kind of writing. Yeah,
because I mean, Robin is, you know, she's a young poet. She's exactly my age, I found out, and I think her poetry, you know, is interesting because it's thoroughly modern. There's tons of references to modernity, and just, you know, one of the song references her Subaru, and you know, and just, you know, airplanes, you know, cars, you know, not even like 21st century, just 20th century stuff, which I think in art song we're often not used to. Schubert and you know, Schumann. And also just, you know, pop culture references, Obama.
She's a product of her generation, and not only, and I love how visceral and I would say sometimes violent her texts are. She does not shy away from that at all.
Yeah, and I think, but it's also, you know, and the other thing that I think I admire is, especially with reading Andrew's, you know, relationships, is in some ways it's very traditional poetry in that it uses, you know, certain rhyme schemes and poetic meters and stuff like that that are just, you know, 500 years old, and that's why that tension, I think, is also something that makes her poetry stand out, because you could use all this modern language and just sort of throw all poetic traditions of the wind, but I think that's what makes her poetry sort of, even though it's laden with pop culture and sort of, you know, references, it gives it a certain timeless quality to it because it feels like it's in the tradition of, you know, Wordsworth. You should check out this Sunday, May 22nd at 4 p.m. at the Old Stone House in Park Slope. It's myself and Erica Switzer on the piano, Martha and Tyler Duncan singing, the world premiere of Earthquakes and Islands by Andrew Staniland, text by Robin Richardson. There's always a link for the tickets on the side. And this is our last Song and Wine of the season, but we will be back in the fall. So thanks for watching. Thanks again to Waterfront Wines, and we'll see you at the concert, and we'll see you next season. Thanks.
Thanks, Mike.